Welcome, listeners. This is Ivan Franklin Rose, and this is the one about 24 traits that tell if a person has good character. It's going to be a good one, so feel free to take notes whenever you wish. If eyes are the windows to the soul, then looking into a person's character might tell you whether the window is worth opening. In an article published on December 28, 2023 in the Very Well Mind, titled, What Are the 24 Character Strengths, written by Sherry Gordon, a published author and certified professional life coach, and reviewed by Amy Morin, LCSW, psychotherapist and international best-selling author, she writes, everyone has varying degrees of these positive traits. The 24 positive character strengths are split into 6 virtue classes. First is wisdom, creativity, curiosity, open-mindedness, love of learning, and perspective. Courage, honesty, bravery, persistence, and zest. Then humanity, kindness, love, and social intelligence. Justice, fairness, leadership, and teamwork. Temperance, forgiveness, modesty, prudence, self-regulation. And finally, transcendence, appreciation of beauty, gratitude, hope, humor, and religiousness. We'll go into a lot more detail of this a bit later. People often look for good character in others, whether they are employees, students, friends, or potential dating partners. Highlighted also in the publication Positive Psychology, good character is exemplified by 24 widely valued character strengths. Learn how the idea of these character strengths came about, how they are organized, and how to assess which strengths a person may possess. We also share ways to maximize one's own character strengths, enabling a person to live to their fullest potential. What's the history of the 24 character strengths? The notion of character strengths was first introduced by psychologist Martin Seligman, known as the father of positive psychology, and Christopher Peterson. Seligman and Neil Mayerson, another psychologist, created the Values and Action Institute on Character, which uses the VIA inventory of strengths developed by Peterson to identify people's positive character strengths. A character strength inventory can identify both a person's strengths and ways they can use those strengths in their life. Building on one's positive character strengths can help them improve their life and emotional well-being, as well as address the challenges and difficulties they are facing. It is also important to note that the tools used to identify the 24 character strengths have been studied across cultures. These strengths are important components of individual and social well-being globally, with different strengths predicting different outcomes. For instance, intellectual, emotional, and interpersonal character strengths can help a person cope with work-related stressors, ultimately impacting their level of job satisfaction. Interventions that help build character strengths can also improve the psychological well-being of people with chronic illnesses. Before we delve into the 6 classifications of character strengths, I think it's important to discuss a person's character versus their personality. In an article by Lakeisha Fleming, a prolific writer with over 20 years of experience writing for a variety of formats, from film to television scripts to magazine articles and digital content, published in the Very Well Mind on August 21, 2023, and reviewed by Sabrina Romanoff, PsyD, a licensed clinical psychologist and a professor at Yeshiva University's Clinical Psychology Doctoral Program, she writes, character and personality are actually 2 different things. We typically consider character and personality to be the same things, but they are totally different. While character and personality influence one another, character refers to our values and personality describes how we behave. Making ourselves aware of these differences can help us understand why we are the way we are. We often use the words character and personality interchangeably. For example, when we're talking about the way a person behaves or how we perceive them, we may throw around adjectives like honest, integral, funny, or outgoing in an attempt to describe someone's character, personality, or both. Although both character and personality involve the expression of someone's inner qualities, research shows that they are 2 different, very different things. So what's the difference between character and personality? Very Well Mind spoke to Letitia Smith, PhD, MLPC, a therapist who helped break down the differences between character and personality. Character refers to our individual beliefs and values, both of which shape our personalities. Our life experiences also shape our character and reveal our intrinsic qualities and morals. Personality refers to our temperaments and behaviors. Our personality shapes our character, and interpersonal interactions often help us figure out someone's personality traits. There are 4 main types of temperaments. Sanguine, a person typically extroverted and sociable, chipper and optimistic, may tend to be impulsive and decisive. Choleric, traits are dominant, assertive, goal-oriented, and driven. Unlike sanguines, choleric people are decisive but can be more impatient and stubborn. Phlegmatic, usually laid back, easygoing, empathetic, dependable, and patient. They may come across as passive and have a need to avoid conflict at all costs. Melancholic, reserved, thoughtful, and sensitive. They can also be analytical and methodical, especially at work, making them valuable to any workplace, although they do tend to want to work alone and may get moody and anxious when things aren't going their way. So unpacking what character and personality truly mean. As you can see by the definitions above, character can shape personality, but personality also influences character. Character is an intrinsic part of a person's makeup. Personality involves the way our character is expressed. According to Tara Lally, Ph.D., the supervising psychologist at the Department of Psychiatry at Ocean University Medical Center, character refers to the person's moral and ethical qualities. It consists of beliefs and moral principles that can guide their behavior in discrete ways. Personality is the sum of a person's physical, psychological, emotional, and social aspects that are manifested through behavior and actions. Real-life situations can help explain the differences between character and personality. The following real-life scenarios can help us get a better understanding of how character and personality differ. To steal or not to steal. Let's say we wake up and go to work one day to walk in and find that the cash register has been left open. No one else is around. If we decide to tell the manager that the drawer was left open, our personality dictates that decision. But if we peek around and decide to swipe some cash from the register, that says something about our character. If you choose not to steal money from the drawer, this decision also speaks to your character. How we respond if we don't get our way. Another example looks at how we might react to being told we can't do something that we want to do. Character dictates whether we're unbothered by this or if we feel like everyone is out to get us. Either feeling points to our core belief system. The way we outwardly express those internal feelings highlights our personality. So if we get angry, act petty, or take the high road, we reveal our personality. And in other words, personality is the outward expression of character. What makes character and personality similar? Both reflect who an individual is as a person and are influenced by environmental factors. These constructs make up the identity of a person and play a vital role in thinking patterns, behaviors, and actions. Both personality and character are integral in understanding who you are in relation to yourself and others, says Dr. Smith, who wrote the main article. How character and personality impact us on a psychological level. Both character and personality are expressed physically, mentally, and emotionally, so it stands to reason that they both have a significant impact in the areas of psychology, personal development, and even social interactions. Research shows that psychologically, character is the part of ourselves that houses morals and ethics. It's significant in this space because it is a driver and predictor of decisions you'll make, which defines your personal development and shows how you relate to others. Personality has a similar impact. Within psychological arenas, the id part of our unconscious, as opposed to the ego or superego, represents our personality and directly represents the needs of an individual. In psychology, the study of personality provides insight into how specific traits and mannerisms develop and change over time. Personality is significant to personal development and social interactions as certain traits can cause distress and presents challenges, tells Dr. Smith. Which is more important, character or personality? Well, character and personality go hand in hand. Each impacts the other, and both impact your thoughts, behaviors, and actions. Some experts say character is more important because it is what drives an individual's decisions. Those decisions are predictors of actions. Other experts argue that personality is more critical because it is the demonstration of a person's beliefs. So basically, it's hard to say which is more important. Ultimately, both matter and are critical links to understanding a person mentally, physically, and emotionally. Identifying our character and personality. Now that we know how character and personality differ from one another, how do we identify our own traits? Let's go back to those two example scenarios from earlier. Think about how you'd respond if you walked into work and saw a cash register open. What might your internal reaction be? If you think you would feel the urgency to do something about it, this may indicate that you have an honest and ethical character. Then, if you decide to tell your manager that the drawer is open, this shows that your personality is trustworthy and honorable because you're expressing your honest character by outwardly doing the right thing. What this means for you. All of us can benefit from understanding ourselves a bit better because it can help identify our strengths and weaknesses. We can then use that information to grow and evolve as we move through life. If you're trying to get a better understanding of your personality traits and your character, think about how hypothetical situations would make you feel. This would reveal your character. And how you would express your feelings, which would reveal your personality. To help put a label on your feelings and reactions, it can help to look up adjectives that describe personality and character. Or you can always ask those closest to you about how they would describe you to someone else. Any of these exercises can provide you with valuable insights into who you truly are. Now we are ready to get back to the classification of character strengths. The 24 character strengths are divided into 6 classes of virtue, as we mentioned before: wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. Here is a closer look at the 6 virtues and the positive character strengths that are grouped with each of them. Wisdom. Those who score high in the area of wisdom tend to have character strengths that lead them to acquire knowledge and use it in a creative and useful way. The core wisdom character strengths are creativity, thinking of new ways to do things; curiosity, taking an interest in a wide variety of topics; open-mindedness, examining things from all sides, thinking things through; love of learning, mastering new topics, skills, and bodies of research; perspective, being able to provide wise counsel to others, looking at the world in a way that makes sense. Now let's spend a little more time on open-mindedness that we discussed a second ago. In an article in the Very Well Mind, just published on February 11, 2025, by Kendra Cherry, MSCD, a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist, psychology educator, and author, and reviewed by Amy Morin, LCSW, who reviewed the other article, psychotherapist and international best-selling author, she writes, "How to be open-minded and why it matters. The benefits of seeing the world in a new way. In everyday use, the term open-minded is often used as a synonym for being non-prejudiced or tolerant. From a psychological perspective, the term is used to describe how willing people are to consider other perspectives or to try out new experiences. Open-mindedness involves being receptive to a wide variety of ideas, arguments, and information. Being open-minded is generally considered a positive quality. It is necessary in order to think critically and rationally. Open-mindedness can also involve asking questions and actively searching for information that challenges your beliefs. It also encompasses the belief that others should be free to express their beliefs and arguments, even if you do not necessarily agree with those views." Open-minded versus closed-minded. The opposite of being open-minded is being closed-minded or dogmatic. People who are more closed-minded are usually not receptive to other ideas. In many cases, they are only willing to consider their own viewpoints. Open-minded people are open to new ideas and experiences, passionate about their own beliefs but considerate of others, empathetic towards others' feelings. Closed-minded people are not receptive to other ideas, only their own. Rigid thinking and a refusal to consider other beliefs characterizes them. Insensitive towards others' feelings is also a trait of theirs. Even if you consider yourself a fairly open-minded person, there are probably certain topics in which you take a much harder stance, experiences that you are passionate about, or social issues, for example. Having convictions can be great, but strong beliefs does not negate an open mind. Being open-minded means having the ability to consider other perspectives and trying to be empathetic to other people, even when you disagree with them. Of course, open-mindedness has its limits. It certainly doesn't mean that you must sympathize with every ideology, particularly those that threaten your safety or that of those you love. But making an effort to understand the factors that might have led to these ideas can be helpful in finding ways to persuade people to change their minds. What are the characteristics of open-minded people? So what does it mean to have an open mind, psychologically speaking? In general, open-minded people tend to be curious to hear what others think, be able to have their ideas challenged, not feel angry when they are wrong, have empathy for other people, consider what other people are thinking, be humble about their own knowledge and expertise, want to hear what others might have to say, and believe others have a right to share their beliefs and thoughts. To recap, open-mindedness refers to being receptive to other ideas and new experiences. Closed-mindedness involves being more rigid in thinking and a refusal to consider other possibilities. Factors that influence open-mindedness. Why are some people open-minded and others aren't? Some factors might be inborn characteristics, but that doesn't mean you can't develop a more open mind. Many of the qualities associated with open-mindedness can be cultivated and with intention. Personality. According to the 5-factor theory, personality is made up of 5 broad dimensions. Each dimension is a continuum ranging from high to low to somewhere in the middle. Openness to experience is one of these 5 broad dimensions. This personality trait shares many of the same qualities as open-mindedness, such as being willing to consider new experiences and ideas and engaging in self-examination. Research indicates that many of the so-called Big 5 personality traits are significantly inheritable, including openness to experience. According to one study, genetics accounts for 21% of the variance across individuals in this specific trait. Expertise. Having a high level of expertise about a particular topic can also influence how open-minded people may be when it comes to competing ideas. In fact, research suggests that people expect experts to be more dogmatic about their area of expertise. When people feel that they are more knowledgeable or skilled in an area than others, they are less likely to be open-minded. Interestingly, researchers have found that giving participants false positive or false negative feedback about their performance on a task influenced how closed-minded they were about considering an alternative opinion. Next, comfort with ambiguity. We all have varying levels of comfort when dealing with uncertainty. Too much ambiguity leaves us feeling uncomfortable and even distressed. Dogmatism is sometimes an attempt to keep things more straightforward and easier to understand. By rejecting alternative ideas that might challenge the status quo, we are able to minimize uncertainty and risk, or at least our perception of risk. Benefits of being open-minded. Being more open-minded means embracing new ideas, experiences, and perspectives. It can widen your world, even when it sometimes challenges your old ways of thinking and doing things. It's not just about being tolerant and opposing ideas. It's all about staying curious and adaptable in an ever-changing world. It allows you to gracefully manage relationships, make accurate decisions, and learn new things that can help you grow as a person. Open-mindedness helps you gain insight. Want to learn more about the world? Challenging your existing beliefs and considering new ideas can give you fresh insights into the world and teach you new things about yourself. Have new experiences. Being open to other ideas can also open you up to trying new things. Achieve personal growth. Keeping an open mind can help you grow as a person. You learn new things about the world and the people around you. And becoming mentally strong. Staying open to new ideas and experiences can help you to become a stronger, more vibrant person. Your experiences and knowledge continue to build on one another. Next, feel more optimistic. One of the problems with staying closed-minded is that it often leads to a greater sense of negativity. Being open can help inspire a more optimistic attitude towards life and the future. Learn new things. It's hard to keep learning when you surround yourself with the same old ideas. Pushing your boundaries and reaching out to people with different perspectives and experiences can help keep your mind fresh. If you are not open to other ideas and perspectives, it is difficult to see all the factors contributing to problems or develop effective solutions. In an increasingly polarized world, stepping outside your comfort zone and considering other perspectives and ideas is important. To recap, being open-minded really can improve your life. In addition to helping you learn new things and grow as a person, it can help you become more optimistic and resilient in the face of life's challenges. How to cultivate open-mindedness. Even if you're not naturally the person who tends to leap into new experiences, the good news is that you can learn how to be more open. However, it can be a bit of a challenge. Why? In many ways, our minds are designed to view concepts as whole. We develop an idea or category of knowledge which the psychologist Jean Piaget called a schema. In psychology, a schema is a cognitive framework or concept that helps organize and interpret information. Simply put, a schema describes patterns of thinkings and behavior that people use to interpret the world. As we come across new information, we tend to want to sort it into one of our existing schemas in a mental process known as assimilation. However, sometimes the new things we learned don't quite fit in with what we already know. In this instance, we have to adjust our understanding of the world in a process known as accommodation. Essentially, we have to change how we think in order to deal with this new information. Assimilation tends to be a fairly easy process. After all, you're just filing new information into your existing filing system. Accommodation is more difficult. You're not just putting something into an existing file, you're creating a whole new filing system. Sometimes new information requires rethinking the things you thought you knew, requiring reevaluating your memories and past experiences in light of what you've learned. To do this, you have to be able to set aside your judgments, take a serious look at existing evidence, and admit that you might have been wrong. That process can be difficult, confusing, and sometimes painful or life-changing. It takes a lot of mental effort, but you can train your brain to be more open-minded. Also, fight confirmation bias. A cognitive tendency known as confirmation bias can be one of the biggest contributors to closed-mindedness. Overcoming this tendency can be a bit tricky. Confirmation bias involves paying more attention to information that confirms our existing beliefs, while at the same time discounting evidence that challenges what we think. Being aware of the confirmation bias is perhaps one of the best ways to combat it. As you encounter information, take a moment to consider how this bias might affect you and how you evaluate it. If it seems like you are readily accepting something because it supports your existing views, take a moment to consider some arguments that might challenge your ideas. Learning how to evaluate sources of information and being an informed consumer of scientific stories in the news can also be helpful. Recapping, finding ways to overcome the confirmation bias can be a great way to cultivate an open mind. Be aware of this bias and look for ways to challenge your existing assumptions to make sure you are not simply cherry-picking information that supports what you already believe to be true. Ask questions. Most people like to believe in their own sense of intellectual virtue. And in many ways, it is important to be able to have trust and faith in your own choices. But it is good to remember that what might seem like being resolute and committed to certain ideals might actually be a form of closed-minded stubbornness. Part of being open-minded involves being able to question not just others, but also yourself. As you encounter new information, ask yourself a few key questions. How much do I really know about the topic? How trustworthy is the source? Have I considered other areas and other ideas? Do I have any biases that might be influencing my thinking? In many cases, this sort of self-questioning might help deepen your commitment to your beliefs, or it might provide insights that you hadn't considered before. Give it time. When you hear something you disagree with, your first instinct may be to challenge it or just shut it down. Instead of listening or considering the other perspective, you enter a mode of thinking where you are just trying to prove the other person wrong, sometimes before you even had a chance to consider all the points. It's easy to get wrapped up in the emotional response you have to something. You disagree, you don't like what you've heard, you might even want the other person to know just how wrong they are. The problem with that sort of quick draw response is that you are acting in the heat of the moment, not taking the time to really consider all aspects of the problem, and probably not arguing all that effectively. The alternative is to give yourself a brief period to consider the arguments and evaluate the evidence. After you hear something, take a few moments to consider the following points before you respond. Are your own arguments based upon multiple sources? Are you willing to revise your opinion in the face of conflicting evidence? Will you hold on to your opinion even if the evidence discounts it? The reality is that open-mindedness requires more cognitive effort than dogmatism. Just being willing to consider other perspectives can be a challenge, but it can even be more difficult when you find yourself having to revise your own beliefs as a result. Next, practice humility. Even if you are an expert on a topic, try to keep in mind that the brain is much more imperfect and imprecise than most of us want to admit. As research has shown, being knowledgeable about something can actually contribute to closed-mindedness. When people think they are an authority on a topic or believe they already know all there is to know, they are less willing to take in new information and entertain new ideas. How many of us know someone that feels that way? This not only limits your learning potential, but it can also be an example of a cognitive bias known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. This bias leads people to overestimate their knowledge of a topic, making them blind to their own ignorance. True experts tend to actually be more humble about their knowledge. They know that there is always more to learn. So if you think you know it all, chances are that you probably don't. As science communicator and television personality Bill Nye once said, "Everyone you will ever meet knows something that you don't. Without an open mind, you'll never have the opportunity to consider those other perspectives and experiences. You'll never get to know what others know." How to encourage open-mindedness in others. If you want to encourage others to be open-minded, avoid arguing and be respectful. This minimizes the risk that the other person will feel attacked or become defensive. Instead, ask questions about how the other person thinks and feels, and then supply questions that might help encourage them to consider other perspectives or ideas. Being open-minded can be hard. It doesn't help that our minds are often geared toward conserving cognitive energy by relying on shortcuts and simplification. Even if being open-minded does not come naturally to you, you can work to cultivate a receptive attitude that leaves you open to new perspectives, knowledge, people, and experiences. The next classification of character strengths, getting back to that, is courage. People who score high in courage have emotional character strengths that allow them to accomplish goals despite any opposition they face, whether internal or external. The character strengths associated with courage are honesty, speaking the truth, being authentic and genuine; bravery, embracing challenges, difficulties, or pain, not shrinking from threat; persistence, finishing things once they are started; and zest, approaching all things in life with energy and excitement. I want to cover a little more about being authentic that I spoke about a second ago. In an article published in New Ideas in Psychology, researchers identified the following 4 components of authenticity. Experienced, or paying full attention to your present environment and internal state, is number 1. Number 2, understanding, or reflecting on that present experience to better understand the connections between your thoughts, feelings, and action. Number 3, judgment, which is meant more in the analytical sense of identifying whether or not this experience aligns with your core values and fulfills your psychological needs. And finally, decision, or choosing a response to this experience that is aligned with those values and psychological needs. In short, authenticity is about paying attention to all the relevant details in a situation and making decisions based on what feels most in sync with your true self. Another strength classification is humanity. Those who score high in humanity have a range of interpersonal character strengths that involve caring for and befriending others. These core strengths are kindness, doing favors and good deeds; love, valuing close relations with others; and social intelligence, being aware of other people's motives and feelings. Let's spend a little time understanding what this really means, social intelligence. Individuals with social intelligence can sense how other people feel, know intuitively what to say in social situations, and seem self-assured even in a larger crowd. You might think of these folks as having people skills, but what they truly possess is social intelligence. In an article published in the Verywell Mind on February 17, 2020 by Amy Moran, LCSW, and reviewed by Carly Snyder, MD, she says, the theory of social intelligence was first brought to the forefront by American psychologist Edward Thorndike in 1920. He defined it as the ability to understand and manage men and women and boys and girls to act wisely in human relations. No one is born socially intelligent. Instead, it involves a set of skills that an individual learns over time. What are the signs of social intelligence? People who are socially intelligent display core traits that help them communicate and connect with others. First, effective listening. A person who possesses social intelligence doesn't listen merely to respond, but truly pays attention to what a person is saying. The other folks in the conversation walk away feeling like they were understood and that they made a connection. Conversational skills is next. Have you ever seen someone work the room, so to speak? They have conversational skills that enable them to carry on a discussion with practically anybody. They're tactful, appropriate, humorous, and sincere in these conversations, and they remember details about people that allow the dialogue to be more meaningful. Next is reputation management. Socially intelligent people consider the impression that they make on other people. Considered one of the most complex elements of social intelligence, managing a reputation requires careful balance. A person must thoughtfully create an impression on another person while still being authentic. And lack of arguing. Someone with social intelligence understands that arguing or proving a point by making another person feel bad isn't the way to go. They don't outright reject another person's ideas, but rather listen to them with an open mind, even when it's not an idea that they personally agree with. So how does one develop social intelligence? While some people may seem to develop social intelligence without really trying, others have to work to develop it. Luckily, certain strategies can help a person build social skills. These tactics can help you develop social intelligence. First, pay close attention to what and who is around you. Socially intelligent people are observant and pay attention to subtle social cues from those around them. If you think that someone in your life has strong people skills, watch how they interact with others. Work on increasing your emotional intelligence. Although similar to social intelligence, emotional intelligence is more about how you control your own emotions, how you empathize with others as well. It requires recognizing when you're experiencing an emotion, which will help you recognize that emotion in others and regulating them appropriately. An emotionally intelligent person can recognize and control negative feelings, such as frustration or anger, when in a social setting. Next, respect cultural differences. More than that, seek out cultural differences so you can understand them. Although most people learn people skills from their family, friends, and the community surrounding them, a socially intelligent person understands that others might have different responses and customs based on their upbringing. Next, practice active listening. Develop your social intelligence by working on your communication skills, which require active listening. Don't interrupt. Take time to think about what someone else is saying before you respond. Listen to the inflections in what others say, which can give you clues to what they really mean. Appreciate the important people in your life. Socially intelligent people have deep relationships with people who are meaningful to them. Pay attention to the emotions of your spouse and children, friends, coworkers, and other peers. If you ignore the closest people in your life, you're missing the cues on how to connect with them. Social intelligence isn't easy to master. If it were, there wouldn't ever be another awkward conversation at a party. However, working toward a strong social intelligence can lead to a richer life, or at least an easier time making a few friends. Get proactive about improving your skills. And remember that you're going to mess up sometimes. Learn from your failures as well as your successes. Now, the next category of strength is justice. People who are strong in justice tend to possess civic strengths that underscore the importance of a healthy community. The character strengths in the justice group are fairness, treating all people the same; leadership, organizing group activities and making sure they happen; teamwork, working well with others as a group or a team. The next in the group of strengths is temperance. Those who score high in temperance tend to have strengths that protect against the excesses in life. These strengths are forgiveness, forgiving others who have wronged them; modesty, letting one's success and accomplishments stand on their own; prudence, avoiding doing things they might regret, making good choices; self-regulation, being disciplined, controlling one's appetites and emotions. Let's talk more about making good choices that I mentioned a minute ago. Amy and Carly, who gave you the great insight into social intelligence, also wrote 9 Little Habits That Make You a Better Decision Maker on February 21st, 2024 in the Very Well Mind. Knowing how to make good decisions, like what to wear in a job interview or how to invest your money, could be key to living your best life, they write. Making those decisions quickly and feeling confident about your decisions, your decision-making skills, could save you a lot of time and hassle. You can become a better decision maker in every area of your life by avoiding overconfidence. Okay. Overconfidence can easily make your judgment go awry. Studies consistently show people tend to overestimate their performance and the accuracy of their knowledge. Understanding the risks. Great decision-making also sometimes requires being able to take a risk. Familiarity breeds contempt. Next, reframing the problem. The way you pose a question or a problem plays a significant role in how you respond and how you perceive your chance of success. Imagine 2 surgeons. One surgeon tells his patients, 90% of people who undergo this procedure live. The other surgeon says 10% of people who undergo this procedure die. The facts are the same. However, research shows people who hear 10% of people die perceive their risk to be much greater. So when you're faced with a decision, frame the issue differently. Take a minute to think about whether the slight change in wording affects how you view the problem. Next, taking breaks. While science shows there is plenty of value in thinking about your options, overthinking your choices can be a problem. Weighing the pros and cons for too long may increase your stress level to the point that you struggle to decide. Studies show there's a lot of value in letting an idea incubate. Non-conscious thinking is surprisingly astute. So consider sleeping on a problem. Reflecting on past mistakes. Making great decisions often requires reflecting on where things went wrong in the past, but don't dwell on your mistakes too long, just enough to make mental notes on how to do better next time. Next, recognizing your biases. Your mind sometimes creates mental shortcuts, referred to as heuristics, Heuristics, heuristics. That helps you make decisions faster. And while these mental shortcuts keep you from toiling for hours over every little choice you make, they can also steer you wrong. Make it a daily habit to consider the mental shortcuts that lead to bad decisions. Acknowledge that the incorrect assumptions you make about people or events, and you may be able to become a little more objective. Next, challenging your preconceptions. Once you've decided something is true, you're likely to cling to that belief. It's a psychological principle known as belief perseverance. It takes more compelling evidence to change a belief than it did to create it. And there's a good chance you develop some beliefs that don't serve you well. Those beliefs you assume are always true or 100% accurate can lead you astray. The best way to challenge your beliefs is to argue the opposite in your mind. Considering the opposite will help break down unhelpful beliefs so that you can look at situations in another light and decide to act differently. Recognizing emotions that affect choices. Many adults just aren't comfortable talking about their feelings. However, labeling your emotions can be key to making better decisions. Research has shown that giving your emotions a name can help reduce their intensity, making them less likely to negatively impact your choices. Make it a daily habit to label your feelings. Note whether you're feeling sad, angry, embarrassed, anxious, or disappointed. Then take a minute to consider how those emotions may be influencing your decisions. And last but not least, treating yourself with kindness. Talking to yourself like a trusted friend takes some of the emotion out of the equation. It will help you gain some distance from the decision and will give you an opportunity to be a little more objective. It will also help you to be a little kinder to yourself. While you may be likely to say negative things to yourself like, "This will never work," "You can't do anything right," there's a good chance you wouldn't say that to your friend. Perhaps you'd say something more like, "You've got this. I know you can do it," if you were talking to a friend. Developing a kinder inner dialogue takes practice, but when you make self-compassion a daily habit, your decision-making skills will improve. Keep in mind, great decision-making is a complex skill. It takes good critical thinking skills, the ability to evaluate your own biases, and the willingness to seek out the information that will help you make the right choice. While some decisions will be more difficult than others, taking steps to support good decision-making can help make those choices a little easier. Be wary of overconfidence. Understand the risks. Reframe the problem, and acknowledge your biases. Make sure you give yourself time to reflect, both on your current choices and past mistakes. And finally, make sure that you're being kind to yourself as you grapple with these choices. And finally, the last character strength is transcendence. People who are strong in transcendence tend to forge connections with God or something greater than they are, the universe, or religions that provide meaning, purpose, and understanding. The core positive character strengths associated with transcendence are appreciation of beauty, noticing and appreciating beauty and excellence in everything; gratitude, being thankful for the good things, taking time to express thanks; hope, expecting the best, working to make it happen, and believing good things are possible; humor, making other people smile or laugh, enjoying jokes; religiousness, having a solid belief about a higher purpose and meaning of life. How are character strengths assessed? A person's character strengths can be determined using one of two inventories: the VIA, Value in Action Inventory of Strengths for people aged 18 and older, and the Youth version, VAA Youth, designed for kids and teens aged 10 to 17. The goal behind the classification of strengths is to focus on what is right about people rather than pathologize what is wrong with them. It's important to point out that people typically have varying degrees of each positive character strength. In other words, they will be high in some strengths, average in some, and low in others. The VIA Institute on Character says there is no single indicator of good character. Instead, a person's character should be viewed across a continuum. It stresses that the traits not included as signature strengths are not necessarily weaknesses, but rather lesser strengths in comparison to the others. Likewise, the top 5 strengths should not be rigidly interpreted because there are usually no meaningful differences in their magnitudes. What are the uses for character strengths? Well, one of the main reasons for assessing positive character strengths is to use this information to better understand, identify, and build on those strengths. For example, identifying and harnessing them can help young people experience greater academic success. It can also help people increase feelings of happiness. Knowing a person's character strengths provides a lens through which psychologists, educators, and even parents can look. It helps them see not only what makes a person unique, but also enables them to better understand how to help that person build on those strengths to improve their situations or outcomes. For example, one strategy involves encouraging people to use their signature strengths in a new way each week. Studies have found that taking this approach can lead to increases in happiness and decreases in depression. Another approach involves focusing on a person's lowest rated character strengths in an effort to enhance those areas of their lives. Research has demonstrated that traumatic events can change a person's character strengths, such as shootings, tragedies, or startling health news or major injuries. Other studies note that some character strengths can help people better cope with these types of situations, such as was found with people who lived through Hurricane Michael, a Category 5 storm. In summary, Overall, determining and using one's character strengths has the potential to improve their health and well-being, enhance their job performance, and improve their academic success. It's also a more positive way of viewing and improving oneself than focusing on their shortcomings and faults. I hope this has been helpful for you to get an idea of how to understand the other people in your lives, other people around you, and family members a little better, understanding their strengths and where they shine. Knowing this can help you grow and also help you become a better friend or family member. As always, I encourage you to wake up each morning with a smile, to start your day in a positive way, to look at something that changes your life momentarily. Looking at your children, your family member, your special someone, looking outside at a beautiful view, looking at pictures of sunrises and sunsets. I have some on Boca CEO on my Instagram, 300 pictures of the most gorgeous sunrises and sunsets if anyone wants to look. Find some reason to start each day with a smile and know that this day is going to be your day. And with that, until next time,